Okay, we had a little bit of startup trouble out here, and fortunately, we have been able to fix it. So hopefully, all of you are able to see and hear both what I'm saying right now, and you can also see Lisa on your screens. So a warm welcome to each and every one of you. My name is Raja Rajamanar. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at MasterCard, and I'm also the President of MasterCard's healthcare business. So almost a year back now, more than a year back, I have written a book called Quantum Marketing. And it was all about how marketing is not just evolving, but radically transforming. And it is entering into the fifth paradigm of its evolution. A paradigm that is powered by incredible amount of technologies, a tremendous amount of data, literally a deluge of data, and tectonic shifts in the culture that are actually shaping the whole world. So marketing in this fifth paradigm is not going to be anything like what marketing has been till now. The new way of marketing is what I call as quantum marketing. It's a completely new and reimagined way of looking at marketing and approaching it from a very different perspective. And to dive deeper into this, based on the success of my book, which became a Wall Street Journal bestseller, it's being published in 11 languages around the world. It has received a number of awards. All those were good, but the feedback that I got on the book was fantastic. And based on the feedback as well, I thought it would be great to engage with audiences on a continuous basis. And I have started a quantum marketing newsletter on LinkedIn, and which I publish typically once or so every month. And that has gained about 92,000 subscribers at this point in time, which I'm pleased about. And based on further feedback from some of the audiences, I started this LinkedIn Live series to dive deeper into subjects, engaging people who are at the forefront of different areas of our marketing and advertising ecosystem. So today we have got our sixth speaker in the series, and I'm really delighted to introduce Lisa Utzschneider. And she's the distinguished CEO, accomplished CEO of Integrated Ad Science. And so firstly, Lisa, welcome to you. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you on this show, and looking forward to having a lively conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you, Raja. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, both to have an interesting discussion about what's going on in the world of marketing when it comes to things like brand safety and brand suitability, but also MasterCard has been and continues to be a strategic partner of IAS. And I must say, on a personal note, I have been a MasterCard holder forever. I don't want to date myself, but I think we've covered all the areas with this conversation today, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Terrific, Lisa. So welcome. And, starting off on the very topic that you mentioned, which is close to the hearts of most of the CMOs and most of the marketers around the world, is about brand safety. Right? As like any technology, it's a double-edged sword. It can be used for good and for bad. There are always good players, and there are also bad actors. Now, where the ad appears, how the ad appears, in what context it is, and maybe in some cases, even unwittingly, the marketers are funding some bad actors. If you can just give a little bit of a lay of the land and your take on how things are at this point in time, and then we will talk later in terms of what kind of solutions are emerging and how our ecosystem is changing and so on.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as you know, as CMO of MasterCard, brand equity and brand reputation and ensuring that iconic brands like MasterCard that you run adjacent to brand safe and brand suitable content is a strategic imperative. And especially when you think about the last 2 years and everything that we have navigated, from unpredictable user-generated content, 24/7 news cycle about COVID, Black Lives Matter, unprecedented elections. Marketers, they want to continue to invest where consumers are. They want to ensure that when they make that meaningful connection, it's in a brand safe and brand suitable environment. And for this reason, brands are leading into third-party solutions like IAS, to ensure that their brand equity, it remains solid, and also that consumers are having meaningful connections with their brands.
So, what are some of the mitigants or methodologies by which brands can protect themselves at this point in time? And I know IAS is one excellent solution, but what are the kinds of generic solutions that are available? What kind of things should marketers be aware of? Because frankly, in speaking with a number of my peers and other marketers across the board, and given that I also am the president of World Federation of Advertisers,
That's
where
right.
I do get the opportunity to interact with a number of peers all the time, one of the key things we figured out is, on the one hand, marketers are acutely conscious and sensitive to the aspect of brand safety. But the level of understanding of exactly how that safety of a brand is compromised and what kind of mitigants are there in place, there is a significant gap of understanding on that. If you can just throw some light on that, let's start at the basics, and then we will go to the more sophisticated concepts from there on.
Sure. So IAS, we launched a product about 2 years ago, actually in the height of COVID, March of 2020, called Context Control. And what that product is, it offers very sophisticated contextual targeting solutions for marketers, so that marketers were moving away from blunt instruments. Instead of saying, as a marketer, I want to block, for example, in March of 2020, all COVID news, they're able, through technology, to identify the content that they're comfortable running their brands adjacent to. So take COVID, for example, content like pandemic information or stories about healthcare workers, where a brand would say, absolutely, I am comfortable running my brand adjacent to that content. It's a solution that's highly sophisticated. Because our technology, we're able to crawl the web of a page and identify content both based on the sentiment of the content and the semantic of the content. And in particular, with the sentiment, the fact that our technology can identify emotion within the content is really relevant for marketers today. In addition to that avoidance tool, we're also offer contextual targeting solutions. We have over 400 contextual segments available, where marketers can proactively say, here is the content that I want my brands running adjacent to, that's positive for their brand. So rolling out these solutions, especially in the height of COVID, and continuing to refine the technology has been a win-win, both for marketers, for publishers, and I would argue also for consumers.
So let me just try to unpack that a little bit with you.
Sure.
So if I am, as a marketer, wanting my ad not to appear beside certain content which is not acceptable, or it's not keeping in line with the personality of my brand, with my own brand values, because different brands have different values. For example, my company might not want to put ads in the context of an article around liquor or some kind of gambling. But for some other company, that might be a perfectly suitable kind of a context that they can actually go in.
Yes.
Now, then, of course, there are certain content which no brand would actually like to be next to, like terrorism and acts of hate speech and so on and so forth. So in those kind of contexts, so if I want myself to prevent from that, so are technology solutions today available, both your company as well as at the industry level with other participants as well, where you can detect the content as being harmful to your brand based on the specifications you have given before serving the ad?
Yes,
or is it before bidding as well? At what stage does the intervention happen? Is it pre-bidding? Is it pre-serving? At what stage does it happen?
Yeah, great question. So our solution is both a pre-bid and a post-bid solution. As I mentioned before, we have created over 400 contextual segments. Many of these segments are created based on marketers' needs and the type of content that they want to avoid, but also the content that they'd like to run adjacent to. So a good example, hate speech. So I can't think of any brand or any marketer globally that would ever want to see their iconic Fortune 500 brand adjacent to something like hate speech. So they can set up that segment pre-bid and say, I call it set it and forget it, that they never run their brand adjacent to hate speech whenever they're running digital advertising across any device, any platform. And especially as more and more users are spending their time on social platforms, brands want to invest more in social platforms, but it's user-generated content and it's unpredictable content. And so marketers are leaning into our context control solution.
So every single website that is out there, you actually look at it and classify it into one of these segment categories of 400 different categories. And then you say, this is suitable for this brand, this is desirable for this brand, and this is not suitable at all for this brand. So is that how you typically sort of pre-classify, and therefore you're helping both at the pre-bid stage as well as the post-bid stage?
Correct. So we have deep integration across the entire digital ecosystem in the open web, also in social platforms. Social platforms are a little bit different than the open web. But again, we've created all of these hundreds and hundreds of contextual segments where marketers can go in and set their segments according to their brand needs. And then the one other thing that I think is important to call out is we're also working with industry associations like GARM that have standardized many of these categories. It's a standardized taxonomy. Good example could be hate speech, that there's a standardized definition across the entire digital ecosystem. So marketers know whichever partner they're working with, that their ads don't run adjacent, and it's a standardized definition.
So in fact, just for the benefit of the audience, GARM is the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. It's an initiative that has been started under the auspices of the WFA, which is the World Federation of Advertisers, right. Yeah. And all the ad agencies, ad associations around the world, most of the brands, as well as ad tech companies and the social media platforms, they are all members of GARM. And the whole idea is to come to a common understanding and standards. So for example, to Lisa's point, when you talk about hate speech, different people have different interpretation of what hate speech is. So to bring all the people across the entire ecosystem to agree to a common definition was not a small thing, but that's something which has been accomplished at this point in time, which is really good forward momentum. So thanks a lot for bringing that up, Lisa. But here is another question. There is another player in this entire ecosystem, which is the regulators. Now, today we have got more from the point of consumer privacy, consumers' data privacy, which is, of course, there is GDPR in Europe, there is CCPA in the United States. Now, do you see any regulations over the horizon or already in the works as it pertains to brand safety or even internet safety for that matter?
Great question. So it has been interesting to watch the regulations that have been growing globally. You had mentioned a few around GDPR, CCPA, but I also think there's just increased awareness on consumer privacy and the importance of protecting consumer privacy and being aware of it. And as more marketers shift away from that cookie-based world, PII data, consumer private data, over into contextual solutions, I do think it will create greater demand for sophisticated contextual targeting solutions, more sophisticated solutions, and research that helps marketers find those contextual solutions that resonates with their brands and demonstrates that they don't have to target audience-based solutions, that they can find content where they see higher consumer engagement with the brand that's running adjacent to appropriate content.
Now, two quick questions following that. Firstly, what we have just described, is it impacted in any way in a world without cookies? Do they have any relationship at all? Because if you are actually looking at different content across different sites, do you rely at all on cookies? And the reason why I say it is from a brand point of view, this is proving to be a very interesting challenge. From a consumer point of view, it is absolutely the right thing to do. You don't need to really track consumers across everything that they are doing on the internet just to be able to serve a relevant ad or to retarget an ad or even to measure the ROI for your marketing investments and campaigns and therefore optimize them. But from the ad tech company's perspective, do cookies matter at all, whether they are present or absent, or whether when Apple says that they are taking away the advertiser's ID, does it impact in any way the ad tech companies?
Great question. So I would say, I mean, the irony for IES is this shift to a contextual-based world. It is a tailwind for our business because we process a lot of data every single day, but the data is about the what and the where, the ad event, and has nothing to do with the who saw the ad. We don't touch PII data or consumer-based data. It is all about the ad event. But what I will say to that is that the companies that are out there that have built their businesses on consumer data and audience-based data and have dependency on that, they're quickly going to have to pivot away from that because more and more of these regulations, they'll only increase over time. But I also think that having first-party data with some of the platforms, they probably will see some benefits over time.
Yeah, I think a couple of points here. One is as far as first-party data is concerned, the large companies have the advantage probably of having a large customer base, and therefore they're able to get more data. But for the other companies, which are either medium and small sized, it might be a challenge. So that's one interesting aspect that the industry has to be dealing with. The second part of it is from a regulation perspective, the regulating perspective, not from the point of lawmakers only. Of course, there is that kind of a regulation, but also the platforms and how they are owning up some of the aspects of internet safety and security and consumers' privacy, etc., and doing away with the cookies or doing away with the advertiser IDs, etc. That's it's a combination and a confluence of multiple things coming together. And I think the time is absolutely, ripe for the industry to collectively come together and evolve the most appropriate solutions. Now, the other related point that I wanted to ask you is, when you look at, I keep saying that in the era of the fifth paradigm, where technology is literally a leveler of the competing field, which means even a small company is able to very effectively fight against a large company, because many of the services are available on pay-as-you-go basis. You don't have to sink in a huge amount of your capital investment, and small companies and medium companies may not have the luxury of such investments being available. In that kind of a democratized competing field, one of the biggest differentiators that will work in favor of brands is trust. And the trust gets engendered in so many ways, and one of which is obviously your brand safety. So if you're operating as in a way that protects and nurtures your trust, that's fantastic. And if you are sort of inadvertently appearing on some harmful site and inadvertently you're funding those kind of companies, then the problem is you're eroding the trust that your brand has got, and it's a reputational hit that you take. Do these ad companies at this point in time have an ability to post facto look at the kind of content in spite of all the controls that are placed pre-bid, post-bid, but then post facto after the ads have appeared to track and say, look, X percentage of your ads have still gone through this, gone through the sieve or gone through the filters, and they have actually made it to the wrong sites. And therefore, two things. Number one, you need to know how much it has, gone. What was the extent of damage? And third, do you need to recover that money? Because somebody should actually be compensating the brands for the lack of, those controls, which basically they're jeopardizing the brand safety. So give me your perspective on that. What's the accountability of various parties who are involved in it? Because from my side, for example, as an advertiser, I would say, look, I'm giving you money, the ad tech company. I'm giving you the money, the social media company. And I told you what I want. But if you go and show my site in some other place, where does the accountability reside? And why is it that my brand should pay for it in terms of the reputational damage? Whereas, so give me some thoughts on that.
Yeah, great question, Raja. So this is the heart of what IAS does. We are a leading digital media quality company. Marketers consider us as Switzerland, right, to play that important role of holding the platforms, the major tech platforms, accountable to ensure when marketers are running their digital advertising and brands on these digital platforms, that we can hold them accountable. Because the last thing the marketers want to do is go to a Google or a Meta and have them grade their own homework. And I would say that, as I mentioned before, as marketers are investing more and more in digital advertising and more in new platforms like a TikTok, for example, we could spend a whole hour talking about brand safety in the live feed of social platforms. The role of IAS coming in within something like a live feed and making sure that environment, which is highly dynamic, massive amounts of volume, user-generated content, short-form video, audio, text, it is brand safe and brand suitable. So that's how we see our role in the digital ecosystem. Trust and transparency is in the mission of IAS. And, you know, we take our role very, very seriously. And we continue to partner with marketers and with publishers, especially the marketers who are trying to navigate the digital ecosystem, the ongoing evolution of the digital ecosystem, and ensuring that they're able to maintain brand equity and also seek out high quality media.
Got it. Now, let me take one step back, and I'm just making some notes I won't forget, and I'll make sure to cover those points. The aspect of identifying a particular site as brand safe or not. Now, it is not like somebody has constructed some content and it remains static. It's evolving, it's getting adjusted, modified, etc. So is the categorization of a particular website as brand suitable or not, is it also dynamic? I think the answer is yes, but I just want to hear from you if that is indeed so.
Sure, great question. So a good example is what's going on in the social platform arena. So for several years, marketers have been asking IAS and other verification companies to go into the live feeds of the social platforms and start ensuring that they're brand safe and brand suitable. We announced last year, we launched a solution on TikTok. It's 100% machine learning technology where we offer multimedia classification within the live feed of TikTok in 3 markets. So that's 3 different languages where we are classifying the content, whether it be audio, text, video, short form video, and deeming whether it's brand safe or brand suitable. The marketers have loved our solution. We're now poised to launch a post-bid solution shortly and also roll it out in additional markets. And when you take a look at a platform like TikTok, and TikTok has publicly declared they want to be the most transparent social platform in the world. And the reason they're doing this is because they want more users to be using the TikTok platform, but also they want more marketers to be investing digital advertising on TikTok so that brands are making meaningful connections with an incredibly loyal user base of TikTok. Following TikTok, Twitter is the next platform that's up. And then after that, Meta has also announced publicly that they are plan to open their live news feed for third-party verification companies. So the social platform space in particular is incredibly exciting because of how dynamic, massive amounts of volume, and then also the short form video content.
So if I heard you right, you said that in terms of when you're looking at the example of TikTok, you're able to see and judge based on the words, the visuals, and the audio.
Yes.
So the point is that technology has now evolved enough to be able to say that a particular set of words spoken or certain set of visuals are appropriate or not based on what the brand specifications are.
Right. Raja, next time I'll bring in a live demo and I'll demo the product for you so you can see. It's very interesting when you combine audio, video, and text, image, where you look at an image and you think, oh, this image is fine. We have one demo of this guy comes in, he drinks a beer, you think it's fine, but then the audio comes on and you hear what comes out of his mouth, and no brand would ever want to run an ad next to short form content like that. And what's interesting is because it's machine learning based, the technology is getting smarter and smarter as it evolves. And we're just so excited to continue to work with TikTok, rolling out the solution to additional markets and also rolling out the post-bid solution.
Got it. So in fact, we are still at the beginning of the fifth paradigm. We're at the sort of the cusp between the fourth and the fifth paradigms, right? Technology is evolving extremely dramatically and at a pace which is unbelievable. And those technologies are available both for bad actors as well as good actors. Now, the question is, let's focus on where the world is already going with heavy investments happening, billions of dollars behind metaverse. And from a safety point of view, etc., if you see already, even before, brand safety probably comes second. The safety of that medium itself comes first, like is internet a safe medium? Is metaverse a safe medium? And how do we make sure that these media are actually safe? These environments are safe for the consumers or for people at large. So already I was pretty shocked. I would say that I have read articles about some people being bullied big time in metaverse. And some people, actually one lady has filed a suit, I believe it's in the UK, if I remember it right, that she has been virtually raped in the metaverse in the UK. Now that sort of scared the hell out of me. And I said, my God, where are we headed? The key thing is, from that perspective, how capable or what is the level of development that's happening of these tools to make the place safe, to keep the brands in a safe context as it pertains to metaverse?
Great question. So metaverse, as I was saying before, social platforms, I'd call that first inning of a long game. Metaverse is even earlier than that. We're so heads down focused on getting our multimedia classification humming and at scale and global. We've yet to start developing for metaverse. The other thing that's interesting, Raja, about metaverse is I personally spend a lot of time with marketers. It's not come up yet. It is not coming up in terms of what are the solutions we have out there. But it is something that we will spend some time looking into and, ideally identify one or two marketers that we could partner with to test and learn within metaverse. But if it is an area that users will be spending more of their time and I'd like to say where the users go, the marketers go, then we would definitely need to take a hard look at investing within metaverse.
Yeah, you can count on us as one of those who would definitely like to be a partner. The reason why I say it, Lisa, is, 1 year back, entire metaverse was like some, geeky thing that nobody really knew much about. Then a few months back, we just dipped our toes with launching of one NFT in the United Kingdom. So we said, let's actually play with NFT and then see what happens. And it was a steep learning because it's anything but simple. Firstly, it is not comprehensible to a normal human being. It is unnecessarily complex, unnecessarily technical, and there is no simplification for a marketer to use it. And also the legal implications are humongous. We started discovering, and this was one single pilot. Based on the learnings, then we went to Australia And at Australian Open, we launched a series of NFTs and also a couple of metaverse experiences. Having learned that about a month back, when the Grammy Awards happened in Vegas this time, we had a complete immersive experience in the metaverse with a virtual red carpet, people changing people having their avatars and dressing their avatars with multiple layers of clothes and meet and greet with the artists. What fascinated me was, in a normal year in the physical world, we have been a sponsor of Grammy Awards for God knows how many years, 14 years or something of that sort. And we used to probably engage about 200 to 300,000 people in that physical space and remotely through digital, whatever you could do. But here, in an immersive fashion, this time, we could actually have more than 2.5 million people that we could engage, which was like eye-opening. So, my God, this is like opening up a new floodgate of opportunities. But then when it is juxtaposed in the context of these new kinds of things that are coming up, like what you call bullying and the virtual rape and things like that, I said that's something which is very scary, and we had to be prepared well in advance before. And the kind of investment which is going to metaverse now is humongous. And so from that point of view, that was the context to my question, saying that what is it that we should be doing if it is not already being done, and will be not just from my company, MasterCard's perspective, but also from a overall industry perspective, we really need to figure out and put those safeguards and those guide rails in advance so that we don't land up in a situation where we are fixing things on the back end, but try to fix things on the front end itself. Along the same lines, the other question, as we look into the fifth paradigm, Web3, part of which is metaverse, but you have also got cryptos, you got blockchains and all this good stuff. The point is, blockchains as well as cryptocurrencies, more cryptocurrencies, they are really focused on privacy, particularly they talk about anonymity, not even privacy, but anonymity of many transactions. That was the whole fundamental proposition with which the original coins have started, right? The crypto coins have started with. In that kind of an environment, where things are being designed with anonymity as the central theme or core, how do brands even begin to think about identifying the safety? And what I mean to say that is, you don't know where things are coming from. You don't know who is behind it. And, and do they have, and if you look at the level of sophistication that these companies have got from a technology perspective, how easy will it be to either game the system or to sort of run circles around the legitimate players?
So my response to that one would be, it's absolutely an area that we should explore also, but I think in some of these new paradigms, it might be helpful if marketers start approaching them differently, just ensuring that the connections that they might make in the current world of social media and the goals that they have and the ROI that they're looking for, it might be very different in a metaverse or in a crypto scenario. And then also I would say that it's the start of a journey, right? And having that clarity that this is all new territory for all of us. And for example, MasterCard in playing in the crypto world, again, what ultimately is MasterCard looking to accomplish? What are your objectives and what the connections that you're trying to make with consumers? And again, we'd be happy to partner with you to explore some of these areas.
Thank you, Lisa. No, the other thing I wanted to related to this ask is from the point of training marketers. Historically or traditionally, marketers are more qualitative. The predominant component or a portion of marketers are qualitative. They're into design, they're into aesthetics, they're into psychology, and they're into understanding the strategic aspects and so behavioral economics and so on and so forth. But the problem is the lot of new world is either tech and or data driven in a significant way. Every marketer knows that the most sacred duty of any marketing person is to build, nurture, and protect the brand. That is sacrosanct. But how do you do that is very fuzzy. Now, from a training point of view, firstly, is your perception similar to what I'm actually stating? And secondly, if so, what kind of training should these marketers go through? In fact, you can just mention a few, and as a follow-up, if you can request you to maybe send some links or some, what do you call material that I can put back on the quantum marketing, newsletter site where people can actually look at it. But it'll be helpful. So, what is your perspective? Is it just me who feel that marketers are hopelessly unprepared for this environment right now, and therefore they need a lot of training? Or in any case, would love to hear your thoughts.
I think that, for marketers, it's so important to get clarity again on your goals for your brand. And a good example of this is, as I mentioned at the start of COVID, we had launched our context control solution. And if you remember, Raja, start of COVID, as I said before, that 24/7 COVID news cycle, leading into Black Lives Matter, leading into unprecedented elections, leading into the events of January 6th on the Capitol. Who could ever predict the last 2 years that we've all experienced? But one thing I observed with the marketers over the arc of the last 2 years is marketers now have such clarity on their brand safety and suitability strategic goals as a company. Clear definition, clarity on the importance of protecting their brand equity and their brand reputation. And I think being clear on what your true north is as a marketer, like it reminds me years ago, and I remember, Raj, when we met when I was at Amazon years ago, when marketers, it was that time when everyone wanted all the data, like, give me all the data, I want all the data, then I'll go figure out my data strategy. It's the same approach. And I think marketers being clear on what their true north is as a brand, what are the principles, the guiding principles of the brand, that point you made before around brand reputation, brand equity, and protecting the brand reputation, knowing that the world we're living in 2 to 3 years from now will be very different than the world that we're living in today.
Got it. You see, one is having a true north, which is terrific and which is the right thing to have. But how do you bring the true north to life is something else altogether different. And that's where I feel that marketers really are falling short. And they absolutely need to educate themselves. They need to really go through any training. They should read up. Because at the end of the day, as I said, this is by far the most significant and important responsibility of a marketer, is to protect their brand, nurture and grow their brand, etc. So it would appreciate any material references that you can send, and I'll share with the audience. The other one I wanted to ask you is brand safety. How expensive is it to enforce brand safety? And what I mean by that is, so there's a large advertiser, and large advertiser has typically deep pockets. So they can say, oh, okay, I can just put a couple of $1 billion on a multi-billion-dollar campaign or annual budget. So that's sort of inconsequential. But if I'm a small player, I'm a much smaller company, a startup maybe, or I'm a small, medium-sized company, SME, whatever it is, how affordable is brand safety services to somebody like this?
Yeah, that's an area where we've been, great question. An area where we've been spending more time is in the mid-market, right? So we have thousands of advertising partners who are in that Fortune 500 category. But in the mid-market, we've been spending more time with those advertisers. They're leaning in more and more into brand safety and suitability solutions. And an area that we're investing in is outcomes, because having spent a lot of time with mid-market, sort of the mid and tail of the business, they really care about ROI, and they really want to make sure that every dollar that they invest in digital advertising leads to outcomes and a result, and hopefully sale of their product. So as we're investing more in things like transparency of supply path optimization, helping advertisers being able to navigate how to optimize their inventory, especially programmatic inventory, and then also move away from the inventory that's just not helping them reach their ROI. We'll see more and more mid-marketers lean into these solutions if they're seeing the return on their results.
So if you project into the next 3-4 years, what do you see coming next as it pertains to brand safety?
Great question. So I think a few areas. Social platforms, we're just scratching the surface on social platforms and the live feed. So next 3 or 4 years, full-blown brand safety, brand suitability, pre-bid, post-bid across all of the major social platforms. I'd say that. I'd say combining those solutions with the sophisticated contextual targeting technology that we spoke to before. And then the other area that we haven't even spent time on is connected TV. And connected TV, that's also our first inning of the game, where linear TV buyers, they're looking for more transparency within programmatic CTV so that they're able to move their linear TV dollars over into CTV. That's another area where IAS is deeply invested, is in connected TV to help marketers get greater transparency so that they're able to understand where their ads are running and then also meet their ROI goals.
Got it. That's wonderful to know. A little away from work, personally, what are you passionate about? And what are your other interests outside of work?
Sure. So I'm married. We have 2 young girls, and I'm very, very passionate about investing in girls and leadership, and also women out there. I've mentored many employees and peers over the years, so I spend a lot of time in that area, and it's something I firmly believe in, is if you can't see her, you can't be her. So that's an area I'm very passionate about. And then also just spending time with my family.
More power to you on that, which is fantastic. And I think we need to do that. And the last one I would also say is, this is a topic which is very close and dear to my heart, which is learning. And I keep mentioning and encouraging my team, saying that, look, I spend 5.5 hours every weekend trying to learn something. Everyone should really try to invest because the world is changing so fast. And if you don't learn and keep up with the pace, you'll get left behind and you might become obsolete pretty soon. And that you should not let happen. From your side, how do you approach learning? How do you keep yourself up to date? And any tips for our audience?
Yeah, great question. So there are a couple of things that I try to keep in practice. One is podcasts. So there are plenty of podcasts that I like to listen to about often leadership, TED Talks, who recently Brene Brown, especially leadership during COVID, which has been an honor to be a CEO and take IAS public, but leaning into podcasts and hearing from other leaders how they've effectively navigated through COVID and have been able to scale their businesses. Also reading books by various leaders. I'm sure your library is similar to my library, but again, motivating teams and also creating meaningful connections with customers.
That's terrific. Lisa, thank you so very much. Really appreciate you being here, and hopefully we'll do it again some other time in the future. And to all the audience, thank you so very much. It'll be wonderful to hear your feedback. What worked for you? What did not work for you? Because my attempt will be to make it as useful and valuable to you, as opposed to just doing it for the sake of doing it. And if you have any future suggestions as to who you would like to have on this show, what kind of questions and topics that you would want to tackle, please keep sending them to me, and that will be the basis for my, inviting our next guest out here, as also cover the kind of themes and topics that are of the most interest for you as we are entering this 5th paradigm, and we want to all be collectively well prepared. So thank you very much again, and thank you, Lisa, and thank you, audience. Please keep yourselves safe, and I look forward to again being in front of you pretty soon.